The GT2 European Series kicks off this weekend here at Paul Ricard. The teams have been on track already this weekend for free practice and for pre-qualifying. They have both races tomorrow, and both of the grids are about to be decided. The two qualifying sessions, 20 minutes apiece, underway. Lights have gone green at the end of the pit lane. We're slightly behind time because of a red flag in an earlier session. The car parted company with its wheel, and that had to be retrieved. So the teams, just a couple of minutes later than planned, out on track. Many of the cars are double driver entries, so it's one driver, one session. But there are, of course, a number of the drivers that prefer to go it solo. Philippe Pret is one, Oliver Freimuth is another, so they will be in both elements of qualifying. You've got Maserati, you've got Lamborghini, you've got KTM and Mercedes represented within the GT2 entry. And they're the Huracan that Bronek, Formanek and Stefan Rossina share. Bronek, Formanek will take the car out in due course, switching from Lamborghinis in Super Trofeo to GT2 this year. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside, and GT2 continues to, if you like, be a slow burn, but it's got bags of potential. Lots of different cars are eligible, and it's an interesting mix of drivers. Some that have been around for ages, some that are fairly inexperienced, and some like Eddie Cheever or Stefan Rossina, you know, really experienced, brought in to help a co-driver. Yeah,
it really reminds me of when GT4 started off and it struggled to get the size, and then suddenly people get it, the manufacturers come, and it's a slight chicken and egg scenario that you've got some manufacturers but not all yet, so it's hard to attract it. But then once it starts to get critical mass, it really starts to go, and having a Maserati in the field is a pretty special thing, and it's a beautiful car, as well as it being fast. So I think it definitely makes sense. It is just going to be, like you said, a slow burner, and once it finally gets to 20 cars, I think it'll explode to 40 to 50, and then take over the world like GT3, like GT4 did.
People want to do something that's popular, and if it's a smallish grid, there's that hesitancy that, do I commit? But if 10 people think that and they all commit, then suddenly you're on the road, aren't you? We've had, in the past, Audi, and we've had Porsche build cars for GT2, but the KTM has been a remarkable little machine because relatively low cost and very, very quick. So quite a few people have gone that route rather than a more established GT brand, you could argue. Maserati, we see there, heading down towards turn one. That's the TFT racing car this year of Patrick Charlet and Jordan Boisson. Maserati also now the official provider of the safety cars and course cars for GT World Challenge powered by AWS events. So there's even more Maserati presence than ever before.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car in GT2 form, but the safety car as well, based on the road car MC20 Series machine, carbon fiber chassis, so a very fast car in its own right, and then put some slicks and wings on it and make it into a GT2 car. It is a complete weapon. More power than a GT3 car, so faster in a straight line, not as race refined, so a bit slower in the corners, so it's got the recipe to be the class of drivers want to do. High power, low grip. They're two big ticks any racing driver is looking for in a race car, and the GT2 format has it in abundance.
I mean, it was the brainchild, of course, of Stefan Rattel to make these cars powerful and to make the driver work a little bit, but to also have some fun, you know, with a big, powerful car that they can control and enjoy themselves. And it goes to some good circuits. It's a calendar that has always double-header events, so, you know, you're not spending too much of the budget travelling. You get the car to one place. You have a lot of track time as well.
Yeah, and that's so important, especially to the amateur driver who is obviously funding it, but also their time is valuable, so that they've got a conflict. Should they be at work, not driving around in circles? Should they be pretending they like to spend time with their family, not driving around in circles? This is a conflict most of these amateur drivers face to get onto circuit. So Stefan has listened to the wants and desires of these amateur drivers and has created a series for them. And yeah, I think we've seen the rate of improvement of GT3 when we see lap times continue to fall. GT2 fills that void, I feel, that GT3 is potentially creating by just going faster and faster. GT2 slots in that mid-gap between GT3 and GT4. Slightly illogically with the numbers, I will grant you that, but it's great to have the prestigious nature of the GT2 category.
And were anything to happen that suddenly meant that GT3 wobbled, then, you know, you've got another rule set ready to go. You don't have to create something, it's here. So Oliver Freimuth, whose Lamborghini goes across the timing line, experienced driver, not only from, in recent years, Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but Porsches, and for many, many, many years, Renault one-make championships. His son is also a rapid racer, and Oliver Freimuth does a 2:14.1 to set the target time from the KTM of Laura Kramer, and then the KTM of Thomas Anderson next up. But at the moment, we don't have a proper look at all the cars' times to know really what you might anticipate by way of the order. There's a mandatory pit stop. The races, by the way, this year are up for an hour from 50 minutes, so a little bit more track time given to the teams. There is the man that last year, in rather dramatic fashion, won the AM Championship, because although Philippe Pret was bumped out of the final race early on, the car that he thought was going to take the title ended up with a penalty and fell away in class, and therefore he got the championship after all. This year, he starts as one of the favourites, does Philippe Pret. Still an AM, but a very quick AM. His son Louis races for Garage 59 in GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup, so good racing family.
Yeah, really, and they love their motorsport as well. The Prets being from Monaco, I guess it's quite easy to fall into love with motorsport in that area, and the history there, and the family business on the side. APM has really grown as a jewellery business around the world, and I remember just walking down a street in Shanghai and they had 3 retail outlets there, so it's a huge company they've grown, and to be able to do that and still go racing, to have that time is an impressive skill set.
And the Prets looked after, coached by
Ortelli.
Stefan Ortelli, indeed, Formula 1 winner. And he doesn't sort of lack knowledge, so you know, you can understand why they're good.
Yes, yeah, and they're neighbours, right? Everyone in Monaco's friends, so you just...
Everyone's a neighbour, it's a small place,
Take a stroll down to Café de Paris and mull it over, and Stefan Ortelli has done a great job with that family.
And Philippe Pret, Ferrari Asia Pacific champion, because although they're monogasque, he did live in Hong Kong for a long, long time, and a lot of Asian racing. So Philippe Pret, certainly one to watch, and he's gone fastest anyway now on a 2 minutes 9.136. They were doing 2 minutes 4s in pre-qualifying, so there's some time to find yet. Whoop, big slide there from number 7, Maserati. That is the car of Roberto Pampanini that had a win at Barcelona at the end of last year. Pampanini and Mauro Calami are the drivers. Very experienced, both of them. And Roberto Pampanini has been racing in America. He's raced in GT World Challenge Europe. He's raced in the Long Cup. He's raced in Italian GT. So he knows what he's doing. This is Thomas Miniberger, who is the man behind the RTR Projects team that operates this KTM. And although he's been racing in the Creventic races for a few seasons, first time he's really come to the GT2 entry.
Yeah, that KTM, it looks like a prototype car, doesn't it, in its body language and its style. When you watch it brake, it's got no dive whatsoever, whereas the Mercedes, quite opposite, quite softly sprung. You can see the whole car load up as we see a Lamborghini starting to warm its tyres up. You can see it moving, trying to get it going, and fastest in pre-qualifying with Stefan Racina, but he won't get in until Q2 and still warming the tyres now, but there are only 11 minutes remaining.
That's right, 20 minutes flies by, doesn't it? As there is Philippe Pret then, absolute best, personal best. He's only a 10th up at the moment on Pampanini, so these 2 Maseratis evenly matched, one in Pro-Am, one in Am. Philippe Pret has the benefit, of course, of being in the car all the time in terms of qualifying and, of course, the races. One element of GT2 that we don't have to worry about for race 1, but we will for the second race, is that the top 3 take these compensation times. So there's a standard pit stop for a GT2 race, but then if you're in the top 3, then you take extra time, and if you're a soloist, you take a bit more again.
Yeah, it's something you have to factor in. Sometimes you want to finish 4th, not 3rd, if you think you haven't got the pace to do that. But it's quite a hard thing to do as a racing driver, to try and finish lower down than potentially you could go there. Everyone seems to have good space on track. The KTM there, Miniberg, just starting to catch the back of this Mercedes, those Mercedes GT2s. Absolute machines. Look how wide they are. That rear wing sits up so much higher. The regulations different to GT3, and obviously that Mercedes based on the road-going Black Series GT2. So a seriously fast road car, again made into a very, very good race car.
So 294. This is the entry for Andre Rocos and Petra Lisa, and it is Andre Rocos at the moment behind the wheel. He does Q1, and of course you start the race you qualify for, so he will be the start driver for the first race of the weekend tomorrow morning. They get the breakfast race about 9 AM, don't they? So coming up towards the line now is the Mercedes, up towards the timing line, And fastest now has gone Alberto De Martin for the NM Racing Team, the Spanish squad that runs the Mercedes. And Alberto De Martin, very experienced GT racer, GT4 and in French GT years past. So 115 Mercedes, the car shared with the team owner Neil Montserrat, and now finding himself a little bit stuck in traffic here. So Alberto De Martin, quick. Can he wriggle through? Yeah, it's a bit brave, that.
I hate that move from that angle. I've seen it go wrong so many times. As the driver behind there, De Martin, the gap opened, so you think this is a move, and then suddenly the car in front hasn't seen you because they're hyper-focused on their own thing, looking at the apex, and the contact there is normally 99% if you try the overtake. So, yeah, that was my audible wince there. And, you can see the frustration in the headlight flash because that compromises 2 laps for the price of 1 is the main issue that they've experienced there.
And he still hasn't got past. As you look at the KTMs, there is 89, Laura Kreimer, who was second early on. She's now down to 4th. The KTMs being run by the RTR Projects team, but also by Razun More Than Racing. This is one of the RTR cars. And Laura Kreimer stays 4th, but the car behind of Thomas Anderson, which is the Razun More Than Racing KTM, is 3rd.
Yeah, you actually saw quite a lot of smoke come out of the rear of that car exiting the last corner. I think that would just be a bit of unburnt fuel. The turbos still spooled up and just sent it through. It only did it once, and that is relatively common out of a slow-speed corner. As the car is off throttle, some of the unburnt fuel makes its way through the engine into the exhaust, so it comes out like that. But we'll keep an eye on that in case it gets any worse. Going back to this Lamborghini now, 2 green sectors starting to ramp the pace up for Formanek. It'll be interesting to see where can Racina go, who's fastest in the pre-qualifying session. So that car is obviously quick, and he'll be coaching Formanek here to try and pass on that experience. When you think what Stefan Racina has done as a CV, it really is a who's who of championship and even what cars he's raced.
But Formanek's been around a while as well. He did Formula Renault for a time. He's done Radicals. He's done Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So he's not inexperienced, but didn't perhaps have the happiest of seasons last year in Super Trofeo. So coming into this championship, good to have Lamborghini represented again. Up towards the timing line comes Bronek Formanek. Then 9th at the start of the lap comes through and improves up to 2nd. So a big improvement there. 2 minutes 6.1. That's what you kind of anticipate out of somebody like that.
Yeah, and it looks like Pret might want to respond here. Half second quicker than his best in Sector 1 and the ultimate best. Bit narrow into this last corner, really hustling on. Is he going to hug the left side of the track to try and get the shortest distance? He thinks not, and he goes, but the car's definitely starting to work its tyres. You can see the squirm up to P1, 2 purple sectors. What a lap.
So Philippe Pret continues to hold sway. Points for pole in the classes as well. So Philippe Pret goes by the margin 31 thousandths then over Alberto De Martin, who is now 2nd fastest. Bronek Formanek 3rd. So you've got the top 3 covered by 0.3 of a second. So it might not be the biggest grid, but it's pretty competitive up front.
Yeah, and Formanek has actually gone purple in Sector 1 as well. So, yeah, it's going to be tight. 0.3 is nothing. So all of those 3 drivers hoping they can find the difference as we look at Rocas currently in 9th place. Trying to where can he get to? That's what the team will be telling him on the radio. He needs to find 4.5 of a second to get up to Pampanini in front of him. So that's a big ask. But we have 2 green sectors at the moment, so it's possible, but this is where the tyre starts to drop off from this point.
I'm surprised Pampanini isn't quicker. Bearing in mind he was a race winner at the back end of last year, and he's an experienced driver. I would have thought that the Dynamic Motorsport run car would be up there fighting for the front row of the grid. It may get there yet, because we've still got 5 minutes to go, but only 8th and nearly 3 seconds off is quite a lot.
Yeah, and the Maserati is on pole, so
yeah,
can't be a racing driver excuse of BOP either on that one. So as we go back to Formanek, there is that purple Sector 1 I alluded to at the start of his lap that he's doing. Again, quite tight into that last corner. You want to try and open it up as much as you can to get the drive on to this pit straight. It's a long run down here and to the line. What's he going to do? Can he find that? He can. Goes P1 by 3/10 of a second. So he found 0.6 on that lap.
The Lamborghini's in as invitational entries, so hopefully we'll see more of them be adapted to GT2 regulations rather than being Super Trofeo cars. And Bronek Formanek, as you say, fastest by those 0.3 of a second from Philippe Pret, and then 31 thousandths behind Pret is Alberto Di Martin. That's Pret going over the line. Not an improvement. Just lost a little bit of time in the final sector. But having said all of that, he's still on his class pole position, and that's the mission.
Yeah. As a racing driver, though, when you're that close to an overall, you want to go for it. Another interesting thing, top 4 cars, all 4 manufacturers represented. So we're seeing tight competitive racing from all 4 manufacturers in GT2s. You see a Lamborghini and a KTM rushing to the line. Any improvements for those 2 cars? It doesn't look like it. I think the tyres have given up. I think so much power in these cars, it's very easy to get the best out of these Pirelli tyres, and I think that's what we're starting to see now in this session.
Yeah, the Lamborghini was that of Oliver Fry, but there is 28, which is Patrick Charlet, and he's the slowest at the moment, but somebody that's new to the championship this year. He has raced in Porsches. He raced in the 24-hour series in the Middle East, but a gentleman racer is Patrick Charlet, so racing at this level for the first time. So there's quite a lot to get used to, and he's no doubt going to get faster and faster over the course of the season.
Yeah, and that's the great thing in a series like GT2. It's a competitive championship, so sometimes it might feel like you're diving in at the deep end, but you know where you are in the food chain and what you can improve to. There's no point entering a championship that you're too good for, too big for. I'd always rather be a small fish in a big pond, and you can grow into that, and that's...
Have you ever been in a championship you were too good for?
Not personally, but I could imagine it if my ego and skill set somehow related to each other on a more tight tangent, shall we say. But yeah, changing subject, does look like Pret is maybe backed off of this. Yeah. Obviously going to do the next session, so is he going to box this time? Does not look like it from the body language of the car into the last corner. So time for 2 more laps still for him, though. Another
one that we were worried about earlier on, Roberto Pampanini, he has pitted, he has boxed, and I don't think that's to do anything and go back out. I'm still quite concerned about that. It'll be interesting to see how much of a difference Mauro Calamia makes when he gets on board that car.
Really slow for Pret there. I looked for a red flag because it looked like he slowed to 80k. Is that a problem for the car?
I was wondering when it came out of the last corner whether it was him rattling over the curb I could hear or something going pop, but that's got a problem, surely.
Yeah, he's putting over to pit exit to try and get out of the way, but is that going to hurt his Q2 chances now? What are they going to do? Because the team cannot recover that car. It's still on the track, as agonisingly close as it is to pit lane. They can't touch it. So then once the marshals push the car and it gets outside assistance, what are race control going to do? If it's in this session, they should be okay for Q2, but this session, luckily for them, is over. But hopefully it's a quick fix, but an interesting one. Maybe if we get that replay and the exit curb has dislodged something in the drivetrain or some electrics being knocked loose. But yeah, that would be a big worry for Pret.
Yeah, and possibly for any other Maserati team, because if it is by running wide and rattling a curb, it can happen to one, it can happen to other cars. The LP Racing Run entry, last year, remember, they had the Carlo Tamburini, Leonardo Guarini entry as well. That's not here this year, but we know that Luca Piri's team runs a good car. Here's your replay. So he comes out of the last corner.
Super slow-mo is going to help us here, isn't it? All looks okay dynamically. Square on the car. There's the exit curve that rattles it. See the splitter maybe just touched, but looks all okay from that angle. But you see the energy going through the car over that curb. The lights stay on. I was looking for any sort of electrical issue, but he's already moving stage right, so he's felt something very quickly and got out of the way. I don't think it's electronic because the lights have stayed on. You normally get a witness of the lights flickering if it was something there, so more mechanical. But yeah, I think the curb has just done something there to unsettle the car. Pret staying in the car. The marshals with a hard decision here, because cars could leave the pit lane still. I think we'll wait for the end of the session in 5 seconds and they'll push that car back in, and then hopefully the LP Racing team can get to work and fix that car. They've got 20 minutes of the next session, but they would want Pret to be out there for as much of that as possible.
So we've got one question mark over Maserati of Roberto Pampanini with Mauro Calamia to take over, and now a question mark over Philippe Pret's Maserati. Oliver Freimuth's Lamborghini loses track position there to the KTM of Laura Kreimer, who is 5th in the times now. and needs to find really 2 seconds to get up to the pointy end of the grid. Laura Kreimer accelerates up towards the timing line now and will take the checkered flag. In fact, session is at an end, Q1 done, and no improvement. Stays 5th fastest, therefore.
Yeah, right in the middle of the pack, so be able to race from there, just off the other KTM of Anderson in front. But yeah, I think the story of this session is really how tight the top 3 are, especially, and then what was the problem for Pret.
And a lap time has just been taken from Anik Patel, who's new to racing, got his license in America over the winter and has now come to race in Europe. But there is the LP Racing Maserati that will only have this lap, or is it this lap that he's got the warning on? No, it's the previous one. So I think he's hopefully going to get this lap time, but will be near the back of the grid anyway. That car, though, will be driven in the 2nd session and therefore started in race 2 by Eddie Cheever, who we've seen in, obviously, Ferraris over the years, but now switching into the Maserati for this weekend. Another driver doing double duty from GT3 and a different rule set over the course of the weekend. Patel pits then, so he'll be at the back of the grid for race 1, but with Eddie Cheever behind the wheel, that car should fly.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. And I worked with Anik actually on an Aston Martin event. He's got an Aston Martin Valkyrie Pro, so a very fast car. And he did a very good job on the first time working with each other. So as the year goes on, I think he will start to climb up the ranks. But for his first race, I think he'll accept that as a qualifying result.
And so too will Bronick Formanek accept pole position at the point with it. Philippe Pret takes the AM pole to Formanek's Pro-Am. 3rd, Alberto De Martin from Thomas Anderson and Laura Kreimer. Then 6th fastest, improving towards the end, the Slovakian driver Andrei Rokos, ahead in turn of Christophe Bourret, then Oliver Freimuth 8th, Roberto Pampanini 9th with, we think, a problem, 10th Thomas Miniberger from Anik Patel, and Patrick Charlet rounding out the dozen. So we've got about 7.5 minutes before the 2nd session gets underway. Time for the drivers to, in most cases, jump out and then the 2nd driver jump in. Teams to do any work to the cars required, and also gives the LP Racing team, hopefully, the opportunity to get number 1, Philippe Pret's car back and go to work. These cars have their paddock near the pit lane, whereas GT4 is on the other side of the circuit. So any equipment is a little bit easier to go to get. And as you say, with 20 minutes of the session, even if you're not out there straight away, still working on the car, as long as you get out there and do a lap, then okay, it's better than nothing. You can at least keep working.
Yeah, it's the diagnostic problem can be the issue here as we go to the highlights. Well, the number 1 car, sorry, was still rolling pretty well, wasn't it?
Philippe Pret, owning AM champion, out early. Slightly twitchy number 7 Maserati of Roberto Pampanini, and Oliver Freimuth looking rapid early on. He would end up 8th fastest then in the 1st session. The Lamborghini making a great sound as the KTMs, perhaps a little bit breathless around Paul Ricard, ended up 4th and 5th in the times, the quicker 2, with Laura Kreimer 5th. This was 4th, this was Thomas Anderson's car, the Razzoon More Than Racing entry. 3rd fastest, though, was the best of the Mercedes, Alberto De Martin, in the NM Racing Team car, new to GT2, but going nicely, chasing after Philippe Pret's Maserati that was 2nd, but stopped toward the end of the session, coming wide out of the Virage Dupont, rattled over the curb and then stopped. And Bronick Formanek may have been out late compared to some, but did enough to get provisional pole position. So Q2 will be underway shortly. Inevitably, 1 or 2 of the drivers having had laps taken off them in that 1st session. Stefano Ortelli there, like many, keeping an interest in what's going on for Philippe Pret's car. Eddie Cheever gets ready to go in his new overalls for the newly named team that he drives for in GT World Challenge Europe, the Ziggo Sport Tempesta squad. And Eddie, who's done a great job in Ferraris and even Euro NASCAR, but still perhaps doesn't get the recognition he deserves. He's quick and he's very adaptable. Yeah,
and he's a busy guy working in lots of championships, so he's doing a good job in that regard. I think this year, obviously, in the Ferrari again, 2nd year in that lineup with Frogger, it's going to be interesting to see where they can get to, AF running the car. So there's not much more you could ask in that regard, and be interesting to get his thoughts on whether this double duty is a positive or a negative. And he will of course say positive because he wants the work and doesn't want any of his employees to think it's a detraction, but it is a big ask of a driver to be swapping a car that quickly. And tend to not do it so much in modern racing, but in historics where I've done it before, you have to use that outlap as a bit of a calibration of right, I'm in this car, it does this. So your reference points, gears, braking points, throttle pickups, even just the feeling of the car, you have to be on it quickly to recalibrate and not have any detriment to either car. As we see the NM racing team torquing the wheels up, that's that comically large bar there. You need that much leverage to make sure the wheels are done up to the right torque levels. I'd imagine 1,000 Newton meters or more on that single wheel nut on the Mercedes. So the teams out of course will put them on with the air gun, which has got easily enough power, and then they'll just peace of mind check it with that torque wrench.
Just going back to the Eddie Cheever point, and you're right, he's not the only one doing double duty, but I suppose the one thing that slightly is in his favour is that all the GT activity is done by the end of today. Tomorrow he can concentrate on this. Yeah, okay, today he's switching between the two, but from here on in, it's GT3 tonight, GT2 tomorrow.
And I've done it myself where you're like, oh, that's going to be cool. I'm going to tell my bosses that'll make them happy. And then they would go, what about the rest of the season where it's not like that?
Yeah, quite.
Probably shouldn't have used that one. It's a reason why it's going to be okay. But yeah, this weekend, it will be the best possible scenario for Eddie Cheever there and swapping between the cars. And again, you would play the positive of, well, I'm on the track nearly twice as much, so I get to see things and I can relay information. And yeah, when you're a self-employed racing driver, a small white lie here or there is not the worst thing you'll do in your life.
But the timetable is going to be a factor, isn't it? Because here, the main GT3 race is done early, whereas at Spa, we're building up to it.
Yeah. Is he going to be tired tomorrow? If he's doing stint 5 and 6, he'll be racing till midnight. And yeah, let me tell you, if you finish at midnight and you're back at the hotel living by 1, the adrenaline won't let you sleep much before 2:30. And then so tomorrow he's got to be here bright and early for his GT2 duties.
Because the first race starts at 8:50. So you've got to be in the car for 8:30, down into the pit lane, round onto the grid. Yeah.
Luckily, adrenaline is the only thing I know better than illegal drugs or caffeine to wake yourself up. So I think he's got every chance there. But yeah, it's a tough weekend with the amount of driving going on. Can't see Philip Pretz out the windows car, so it'll be interesting to see if the LP team are working on that and what the issue was. It would have to be something in the drivetrain for me, which normally isn't a quick fix, is my worry there.
Just saw Thomas Anderson standing by the KTM, but now Simon Birch will take over, the Danish driver who raced with Thomas Anderson last year. So same partnership, same car. Simon Birch did do a little bit of racing across the winter in 6-hour race at Portimao, which he won. He also won the 6 Hours of Barcelona, did the 24-hour series in the Middle East. And the Razzoon team looking at other cars as well as the KTM for different categories. But he and Thomas Anderson, I would have thought, ought to be a combination to keep an eye on in Pro-Am. Certainly they know how to bank points. Oliver Freimuth gets ready to go in his Lamborghini, having raced in the GT2 series in the past. But as I said earlier on, he's been a mainstay of one-mate Renault championships for many, many seasons, as well as minis and even the German Dacia Logan series.
Was that a highly competitive championship? I can't actually remember watching that one, if I'm being honest.
I don't think I ever saw it either. But wasn't it Dacia's that Christopher Hauser came out of as well?
Wow.
Or Christopher Meeks. One of the Christophers came out of Dacia's. Right, that is Mauro Calamia this time in the car that Roberto Pampanini seemed to struggle with in the first part of qualifying, but there's no concern around it by the look of it.
No, they're not working on it. It's not up in the air, so they're not checking anything there. So maybe it was just a slight subpar performance there. As we see Pampanini, what's his body language like? He musters a smile and a wave, but then goes back to a bit more of a serious demeanour. So maybe just hadn't got on in testing like he wanted. Maybe the balance of the car isn't where he would choose to have it. But yeah, like you said, he was much quicker last season. Qualifying 2 should be going green any second now. And here we go. 2 cars ready to go. 20 minutes remaining. A few more cars going. Let's keep an eye out for that number 1 Maserati of Philippe Pret to see if he does make it back out.
So the first car that goes out is the TFT Maserati of Jordan Boisson, who with Patrick Charlet raced in Carrera Cup France and in the 24-hour series in the Middle East. Also out is Oliver Freimut, on his own of course, and then Petra Lisa taking over the number 294 RTR Projects Mercedes. Raced in the GT and Saloon ES Cup. So a number of drivers biding their time out of all of this, not rushing out, others wanting the mileage because they're new to car and or circuit, like Jordan Boisson, for example. But even though he's on track, he's not exactly storming around, is he? Not yet.
Yeah, again, there'll be a new set of tyres, so although the car is warm, the brakes will radiate some temperature. They're still only be probably at 40–50% of the total grip at this moment of their life, so it will take a bit more time to get going as we see another Maserati joining the circuit, and it'll be interesting to see where that Dynamics Motorsport car can get itself up to after a lackluster Q1.
And Oliver Freimut thinks, right, I'm bored looking at the back of you, so he gets past Jordan Boisson coming up towards the chicane. Because this is customer racing, it's really to lower the speeds a little bit round the lap that chicane is put in for the GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS race. They get the full Mistral straight, but for the gentleman racer, the AM racer, arriving flat out here would be quite daunting.
Yeah, interesting. The speed trap's not hugely different. In Q1, I saw the fastest speed trap there of 230k, whereas the GT3 is going straight through doing 280. So 50k, yes, but actually surprising how quick these cars get back up to speed. And the GT3s are sat at terminal velocity for a good 400–500 meters, and you're just sat there. Some of them, you're actually on the limiter in the slipstream, so it's normally what the manufacturers look at. Top ratio for their gear is either end of the straight here or the end of straight at Bathurst, so you kind of work back from there. So yeah, these cars, although doing the chicane, still getting up in excess of 230 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, no one's accusing these of being slow at the end of the Mistral, that's for sure. And Oliver Freimut, one of the more experienced drivers on the grid, is about to start a proper flying lap as he comes out of the Virage Dupont up towards the timing line now. Still trying to get the warmth in the rubber, and the pressure's up as well. Behind him is Petra Lisha in the Mercedes AMG, goes through. So Freimut, then the first one onto a proper flying lap of the session, down towards turn 1, sets the car up, turns right.
Yeah, and I think this will be more of a banker lap just with how he approached the lap. So using the track on exit, but he won't be pushing too hard to not take too much out of the tyre. That's the main point of this stage of qualifying, as it's all coming towards you, tyre temp and tyre grip wise. Hooking the curb up to start with a bit at 3 as we go looking through the window of that Eddie Cheever driven LP racing car. Interestingly deciding doesn't want to go out straight away. He's going to let the track come to him. 15 minutes remaining. No tyre oven, so like I think we're losing 4–5 minutes in the prep of the tyre, so he's thinking he can get it done in a maximum of 4 laps pushing.
So Mauro Calamia goes through, and Calamia does a 1:53.487 in the first sector. Wiper on, I think that's in error, isn't it? Because there's no umbrellas up round here, so Calamia on a mission. Oliver Freimut's done the absolute best within the first sector, but Calamia comes to the end of that first sector, and we'll see now whether he's going to be any faster. Drops down to the end of turn 6. That's Freimut, who is no longer fastest in sector 1 because Calamia is indeed quicker. So the Lamborghini will again register a proper time, but it's going to be Calamia behind, I think, who will go faster.
Yeah, looking like it. Just getting some reports from Alex in the pit lane. It's a gearbox issue for car number 1. So Philippe Pret probably not going to make it back out. Like I said, a driveline issue is never a quick fix. So that's really misfortunate for them in that regard. But yeah, a strong qualifying 1, and it's going to be a fun race 2 as how Ortelli will set that up as a coach for Philippe Pret.
It makes it worth watching for us as well, because we know that Philippe Pret's not slow, so watching him get through the field will be interesting. especially given that if he's had a good result in race 1, he's going to cop a pit stop penalty.
Yeah, yeah. So
down.
double-edged sword on that one. Yeah,
yeah.
And, yeah. I think he might have a bit of a bookend day of emotion, happiness to sadness, and you always, if it's going to be that way, you always want to end on a high. So when you leave the circuit, you're smiling, and yeah, when you wake up Monday morning, it all seemed worth it.
So this is Mauro Calamia, experienced driver. He's down, as you can see, 2 purples, 2 absolute bests in the sectors. This should put him on provisional pole position as he comes up now through the Virage du Pont, and perhaps therefore proving that there was nothing wrong with the car. It was just that Roberto Pampanini never quite got it all hooked up. Over the line goes Calamia, goes onto pole position then, and the lap time puts him into the 2-minute 6s. So he is very nearly 4 seconds quicker than Freimut. 3.9 is the margin straight away. That's a massive gap.
Yeah, and the car looked good from at all times. So the positive is there's so much data and video involved in these cars, so you're able to at least analyse where the time is and look to improve. Interestingly, wiper on again coming out of turn number 2. This drone shot's so good. We were able to see the car hook into the inside here, open the steering up. Do we lay any 11s down? No, the traction is good. Hooking the curb up through 6. And now can we be flat through 7? This is where the car will pull away from the drone. The power really starts to build. 200 kilometers an hour on the exit, hurtling into this first chicane. It's a big stop, and this will be a good overtaking spot as well into turn number 8. This chicane, very tight, but because of the speed, you're able to get the slipstream, and then it's a big brake zone all the way in to this tight left. Calamia
riding the curb, and finally gets around to turning off the wiper. I was going to say, so busy is he? He's not really been focused on that, but finally gets a moment to flip the wiper off, comes up towards the approach to scene. Now you can see how much rubber there's been junked on the road, and by the end of today, with another race to come, and then a 6-hour GT race into the darkness, it's going to be a very dirty part of the racetrack. That Calamia up the curb, but not too far up, and again, look, purple, getting faster and faster all the time.
Yeah, really fast. Slightly off track there. Interestingly, that isn't a historical track limit issue, so I actually think he'll get away with that, even though it was illegal race control, mainly monitoring 6 corner exits here at Paul Ricard. So I think that will be okay for Calamia, because this is going to be a great lap if you can just keep it tidy towards the end. A bit of traffic in the distance, but he should be clear for this lap and maybe even one more.
So Calamia comes through. We're not even at the halfway point of qualifying yet, so he can afford, probably given the margin, to park this. Up to second has got Oliver Freimut again with a better time. The margin 1.6 seconds, but another pole lap for Calamia. He goes by this time 2 minutes 5, so straight away he stretches it even more to 3.3 seconds. I think you've got your pole position car here.
Yes, he looks pretty, you say that, energy. That is,
yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Same car, so he's got the chance there. But that was a great lap, and 3 purple sectors really showing the dominance so far. 8 minutes into the session for that car.
Right, so let's see what Cheever can do, because he's not yet done a lap time. So that's the one to keep an eye on. There going through is 89 KTM. So that car now has Matto Homola at the wheel of it, the former touring car racer. Homola is quick, we know that. This is the one that he shares with Laura Kreimer, so that should be there or thereabouts, certainly in Homola's hands. And we've got a cancellation of a lap, and it is for the sister car, 789, which is Victor Brett at the wheel. So going back to your point about race control, looking at track limits, Philippe Pret with his gearbox problem not able to get out for this session, and Calamia 2 more purples. See what he can do this time. He's got the pole lap down to the 2 minute 5s. So over the line will go Homola. Got a slow Mercedes there that people duck past. Homola goes second. This is Calamia to see whether he can go, what, into the 3s maybe this time?
Yeah, but traffic is compromised there on the exit. Maybe 3 or 4 tenths of a second. Just looking at Eddie and see what he can achieve in this session. And at the moment, it's probably a second and a half off. So I think this is a great job by Cameron. And I think maybe Eddie's maybe left it a bit too long to respond, because this car is getting faster and faster lap after lap.
Is Eddie an underachiever then?
We can go with that if you want. I would go positive and say over. But
all right. Well, at the moment he hasn't done a lap time. Up towards the timing line comes Calamia once more, and that's going to be a 2-minute 5.125. So quicker, but not by that much. He's sort of finding tenths now rather than full seconds. Right, Cheever goes fourth. Wouldn't say that's overachieving. 2 minutes 6.897. He's got to find 1.8 seconds to go ahead of Calamia.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if the tyre's got that left in it. So it's going to be a mix of that tyre still coming in a bit and what Eddie can get out of this car coming into turn number 5. What's the first sector going to be? Breaks the beam now. It's less than, what's that, 19 thousandths off fastest. So we're pretty tight. Bit of traffic in front though would be my worry. Is that Mercedes going to get out of his way? Is it going to give him a slipstream? He's pumped up through there. Let's watch the car dive under braking and see how much of the curb we're able to use. You want to use as much as you can, but without the car bottoming out, so get close to that bollard on the inside. Maserati does ride the curb well. The damping on the car seems to be able to take those curb strikes so well. The body stays still and everything else looks okay. The Mercedes moving out of the way as we're about to break the beam for Sector 2, purple Sector 2. This lap could be good enough for pole position.
Through senior he comes then, so Eddie Cheever, personal best, absolute best, green and purple sectors 1 and 2. And he's got to find, remember, 1.773 seconds to go on to pole by 1,000th. Let's see what he can do. It's been a sort of slow burn start to the session. He was out late and he's taken his time to get up there. But there is a lap time cancellation and it was from half a minute ago. I don't think this lap's going to stand. So however good it is, I think this is the one. It was a turn 7 warning, and he's coming up now towards turn 14. So I think this lap's gone.
Yeah, it looked close on camera. It was when we were behind the Mercedes, and I didn't want to snitch on him, but it did look very, very tight. And I think you're right, this lap will then just get deleted. His purple sector has been stolen by Stefan Racina. We do go P1, but let's see if we lose that lap. Stefan Racina is purple in sectors 1 and 2 in the Lamborghini, and that lap has gone.
Yeah, so that puts Cheever back down to 3rd. So it's Calamia, Homola, Cheever, and Oliver Frym at 4th, because Rosina's lap yet to finish. 6th quickest he is. So yeah, with the lap cancellations, the other one that's gone is 28, I'm afraid to say. That being the car for this session, driven by Jordan Boisson, the yellow Maserati. So he's just had a lap taken off him. That right, Rosina, personal best and absolute best. We know this car is good because it's the one on pole outright for race number 1. And to the line he comes. So Rosina up towards the timing line, breaks the beam, and that lap is going to put him onto pole position. 2 minutes 4.014 by over a second from Calamia. Wow, that is equally impressive.
Yeah, and it looked tidy out the last corner, not even using the full amount of curb. Using the full amount of curb and more, Cheever has taken purple sector 1 off Racina. So let's see as we go through sector 2, what are the differences between the Lamborghini and this Maserati. Slightly slower in 2, but we're within a 10th or so of Racina's pole lap at the moment. Montserrat there as well, and the Mercedes has now gone purple in sector 2, and that's this car here in shot. So we suddenly, this session's become alive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looked like Calamia was all over it and it was going to be easy, and now he's 1.1 off pole. So where is pole position going at this moment in time? I would say this car, Cheever and Racina and the Lamborghini, all have a pretty equal share opportunity of taking pole position.
Yeah, Neil Montserrat doesn't do a huge amount of racing. He runs the NM Racing team. He's new to GT2, but he comes sideways out of the Virage Dupont up towards the line. It was looking good. Let's see how much time he's just squandered there. Comes up to the beam and goes 5th fastest then. So Montserrat does improve, but could have done perhaps even more. Eddie Cheever, in the meantime, is 7th and has done 2 personal bests. Comes now up towards the timing line. Stefan Rosina is a 10th quicker because Cheever has gone 2nd, so he's up to 2nd on the grid. Simon Birch with the white and red KTM is 3rd. Amara Calamia, who I thought was going to be a safe bet for pole, has now slithered down to 4th. He's gone across the line again, but that was a slow lap on a 2:14.
Yeah, and I thought Montserrat was going to be a lot higher. His last sector lost 1.7 seconds. Yes, there was a snap of oversteer at the last corner, but that wasn't enough as we go to another purple sector, this time for the KTM of Birch there. Sector 2 was strong, not green, but still strong. Lost the purple sector now to Cheever, who's reclaimed purple sector 1 from this KTM that we're watching. So this qualifying, suddenly a bit of a slow burner for the first 10, has really livened up with 5 minutes to go.
So Simon Birch pressing on. He is only 3/10 shy of pole. Eddie Cheever's done another absolute best in sector 1. So he's not done yet either, as at the bottom of the order, you've got a fight not to be last between Oliver Freimuth and Victor Mrach in his KTM. So Simon Birch first up, heading to the line. He'd lost some time in the middle sector, so it started nicely for him with a personal best, but he's dropped a bit of time on a wobble as he hooks a wheel over the curb, coming out of the Virage du Pont, out of turn 15. Over the timing line he goes, stays third fastest, but the lap time is a little bit better, 2 minutes 4.233. Now, Eddie Cheever, absolute best, personal best, adapting to a new car, of course. Just thinking about tomorrow and the races, here you've got a guy fighting for pole and a co-driver who was, with respect to him, new to racing at the back of the grid. That car's going to rise and fall during the races. Yeah,
and that's the beauty of Pro-Am racing, isn't it? And what can Maserati do? His last lap, sector 3, was bang average, if I'm being pretty brutally honest about it. But this lap is a green and a purple sector for his car. He's going to cross the line. Can he go higher than 7th, where his current position is up to 4th? Here's Cheever. Can he get higher? Can he up Racina and take pole position? He's crossed the line now. Yes, he can. Nearly 0.2 of a second.
2 minutes 3.825, the only man into the 2.3s. So Eddie Cheever, with just under 4 minutes to go, puts Maserati number 8 onto pole position. And remember how I got all excited about Calamia having secured pole. Well, he's down to 5th now. He's pitted. I suspect the tyres may well have had the best run here. Simon Birch, again, does a good first sector, but that's perhaps KTM friendly. There are quite a few tight corners in that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This sector where he's just finishing is not KTM friendly, and that's why we see a time loss of 1.1 seconds to Cheever's Maserati. Sorry, it's actually Maserati's Mercedes fastest in sector 2. So again, the ebb and flow of these cars, their strengths and weaknesses really highlighted around here. Paul Ricard, whether it's sort of Jekyll and Hyde sectors, you've got 1 and 3 tight, twisty, technical aero, and then sector 2 is all about straight line performance and traction.
So, Eddie Cheever for provisional pole position, and of course the points that go with it. The best of the AMs is Neil Montserrat, so even though he is, in quotes, only 4th, there is still a class pole position there. As Simon Birch, again, breathless in the middle sector, has to get the car by the scruff of the neck. It's still the better of the KTMs, Matej Homola's car being 6th fastest. So Simon Birch comes out of the Virage du Pont up towards the timing line, breaks the beam, and the answer to what the lap time is going to be is still 3rd fastest, and it's a slower lap as well, 2 minutes 8. It kind of ebbed away in sectors 2 and 3. I don't think there's going to be a response from that, even though he stayed out.
Yeah, almost, I think he backed out of that lap to try and see if the tyre would come back, take 5 seconds out of his lap time and then push again. So let's see what his sector 1 is. The cars will have a live delta in, so the driver's able to see if they're faster or slower. Busson here in the yellow Maserati, 9th position at the moment, 2 green sectors. He was the first car to leave the session, wasn't he, for Q2? So he's been out there the whole time, obviously learning more, finding more time than the tyre is losing. So he's trying to lift himself up. What's a realistic chance? He's got to find 1.5 seconds to get up to 8th place. That's a big ask towards the end of the session.
So there is 28, Jordan Boisson, 9th of the 11. Remember, there should be 12, but no time for Philippe Pret, which will add to the fascination of the race tomorrow, because as he's chipping his way up the order, some of the quick cars at the front will give way to the slower co-driver and they'll drop back. So there are places to be gained for Philippe Pret, assuming they can sort the dramas. We are into the last lap of the session for many now, because we've got just about 90 seconds left and the flying lap's just over 2 minutes. So Jordan Boisson, new to GT2, with that very distinctive bright yellow Maserati. Alexandre Leroy, who drove for TFT last year, has stepped up to GT World Challenge Europe this year. So new drivers for TFT. And the Maserati burbles its way now out of turn 5, heading to the Mistral Straight and ultimately to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I said he had to find 1.5 seconds to find some position. He's just gone faster again in sector 1, so bit between his teeth, and he's trying to chase down. The car in front is Gibbon in the Mercedes for 8th place in this qualifying session. So good to see throughout the session an improvement, and that just really sort of doubles down on when you're new to a car, you just need laps to get used to it.
Neil Montserrat, personal best, absolute best. 4th he is, the leading AM, the NM of NM Racing Team. But Neil Montserrat is on a serious mission here to try and get himself up towards the front of the grid.
Yeah, Sector 1 is only 1/10 behind Cheever, so we go to him now in Sector 3. This has been his problem child sector in this session, however, so let's watch him. Looks okay, wasn't particularly loaded on exit, maybe could have carried another couple of kilometres now. Good line there through 14 into 15 now. How's he going to set the car up? Hold it left as much as you can, which he does well. Chuck the car into the right. So smooth with his hands there, watching in, not using too much exit curb, pushing to the line. He'll take the checkered flag as well. Where can he get his car up to?
Let's see, breaks the beam, stays fourth. It was improvements across all the sectors, apart from the last one, because that's shown as being a 54.038. Didn't have a lap taken off him, did he? No. So Neil Montserrat, 54.0 in that last sector, dropped, but the time was still an improvement, but only to remain fourth.
Yeah, and in Sector 3, he lost 1.4 seconds to Cheever's purple Sector 3, and he's only 1.1 off pole. So when I said it's his problem child sector, it really was. That will be a mixture of car and driver, but that will be something they will want to rectify for the race, because then they will have a very quick race car.
Very true indeed. This is Simon Birch, whose efforts really are frustrated not by a problem child sector per se, but by the just nature of the circuit. You know, there are so many fast sections to it that don't help the KTM. More corners, please. More tight corners.
Yeah, when we sort of go to the more flowing circuits where a bit of aero grip is the main priority, then that KTM will definitely come forwards and be a stronger package. And he's backed out of the lap, and I assume he's going to box this lap and save the tyres slightly more than adding 5.7 kilometres of Paul Ricard lap for no reason.
Well, the flag's out, as you say. Session's done. Eddie Cheever takes pole. He'd already boxed anyway. He'd already pitted. So a really interesting session, that, wasn't it? It wasn't what we expected. No,
it was a slow burner and had a couple of subplots, didn't it? Like you correctly called about Kalami being on pole position and then all the way down to fifth.
He was at the time.
He was only 1.3 seconds off, so you were quite close apart from the other four cars that went quicker than him. But yeah, and I like the split here. Again, we've got four of the manufacturers in the top four, like Q1, and that's without Pret involved. So yeah, the races tomorrow are going to be frantic.
So Eddie Cheever takes pole position, and the points in Pro-Am from Stefan Rossina and then Simon Birch. Neil Montserrat fastest in Am, ahead of Mauro Calamia, who was on pole for the first half of the session. Matteo Homola sixth, ahead of Petra Liscia, Pascal Gibon and Jordan Poisson. Oliver Freimuth 10th from Victor Marach, and Philippe Pret never getting out because of the gearbox woes that stopped him in the first session. So Eddie Cheever then overall and Pro-Am pole, Am pole to Neil Montserrat. And we've got two really interesting races to look forward to tomorrow. The first of which will be starting just after 8:50, and the second in the afternoon slot after lunch. But GT2 may, as we say, not have the biggest grid, but it's competitive. And with Pro-Am cars, Pro-Am entry, and therefore some rising and falling as the race wears on, two 60-minute races tomorrow are going to be really interesting indeed. Eddie Cheever has done a really good job then to take that pole position by just under 0.2 of a second. Let's hear from him with Alex Le Gui.
Here with poleman Eddie Cheever, who's a bit of a seasoned pro, but a rookie in this paddock. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was fun. LP had made a good car for me to drive in qualifying. It was really nice to drive. And now it's exciting because in a few hours I'm going to be in the GT3 field, so it's...
Yeah, you're so fast, Eddie. You've already changed.
Yeah, no, I did qualifying like this. And
okay.
I'm sorry for the team, but I didn't want to change the suit again, but it brought me good luck. So I might keep it for the rest of the year.
How is it doing double duties here at Paul Ricard?
I'll tell you after the race. For now, it's okay, but let's see after a 2-hour stint.
Fair enough. Thanks. Well done, Eddie.
So Eddie Cheever heads off now to get his brain in GT3 mode. Let's look at the highlights of qualifying 2 then, that began with Mauro Calamia at the wheel of number 7 Maserati, Oliver Freimuth, the soloist in number 24 Lamborghini, and Freimuth in the end 10th quickest. But up front it developed into a battle between Eddie Cheever, Stefan Rossina and Simon Birch for the top 3 places. This was the best of the AMs, Neil Montserrat, who was 4th overall despite struggling a bit within the last sector of the lap. Simon Birch took the KTM to be 3rd in the times. Second fastest, Stefan Rossina's Lamborghini, and pole position to Eddie Cheever. First time in GT2, first time in the Maserati. He'll start race 2 on pole position, race 1 just before 9 AM tomorrow for Paul Ricard.